Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Sean, and today we are talking about campaign games. And campaign games, I know, it's like a bit of a strange term. What does it mean exactly? Campaign versus legacy, and what else in that? We're kind of talking about both. So what we mean by campaign games, kind of, is that they kind of tell a story, that they've got a bunch of games that are going to link together. Maybe that some things change, maybe that some things are added. Not all these games are going to have all of those elements, but they'll all have most of those elements.
And we love campaign style games. We've played probably about 25 games and we've narrowed it down to our top 10. The tricky is it would be very easy to give spoilers because of the nature of it being campaign games. But we will not give any spoilers.
That's our spoiler-free guarantee. There are going to be no spoilers in this video. That will mean that there are fewer photos than we usually have just because we can't take photos of some of these games. But I think it is important for all of these games not to give away anything that is going to be a nice surprise. And we're not going to do that thing either where we're like, it's not a spoiler, but no, nothing. We're not even coming close to spoilers.
So on that note, let's kick it off with our honorable mentions.
My first honorable mention, well, my one honorable mention is Marvel Champions. And I love this game. And it's got a whole bunch of these campaigns. So there's a bunch of expansion boxes that add campaigns for like Guardians of the Galaxy, X-Men guys. There's a Spider-Man one. And they are really cool, and they kind of string together 5 different bad guys. But the reason it's not in here is I just feel like you could play those 5 bad guys. There wouldn't be an enormous difference in how you played them if you played them separately as if you played them in the campaign.
Yeah, so really good game, but didn't make our list for top campaign games. The next one is a fantastic campaign game. It's my honorable mention, and it's Mice and Mystics. And I think this is one of the stronger narratives that we have on our list. I really liked the story of the mice that are in the dungeon, but it is a dungeon crawler dice rolling game. And Sean does not really like dice. Dice don't agree with him. So I like playing it, but as an experience for the two of us, it wasn't necessarily the best fit.
So we did the thing where we both ranked them separately and then we mushed them together. And this one would have easily, I think, made the top 10 if it was just on Jess's. It was nowhere near the top 10 on mine, but I do really appreciate the story to it. It's just the mechanics, while super good for an awful lot of people, just didn't mesh with me.
Number 10 is Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, which is a deck building game. And you go through the 7 years of Hogwarts. And so you are adding different friends and items and fighting the appropriate bad guys for each year as you go along. And it is based on the movies, so it's the artist snapshots from the films. And I think as a campaign game, it does work pretty well. You definitely feel more like you're Harry, in year 1 at the start, and things get a lot harder as you progress through the years.
They get a lot harder. I think that's the thing that surprises people about this game, is that they think it's going to be like a kid's game, because it's a pretty simple deck builder. It really, it doesn't break the mold in any major way, but boy does it ramp up. And then when you add the first expansion is impossible. Oh my goodness, is it hard. Then the second one tries to make it kind of goes way too far the other way. So that's why it's a little low, but we're both Harry Potter fans, and it's great. And I love being Neville. But the tricky is a couple of the characters are way stronger than the other characters. Thankfully, one of them is Neville, who, as we all know, is actually the hero of the story and actually the one that all of the prophecies were about. I really have some theories about Neville.
And the other strong character is Harry. So even though I would have preferred to be some of the other characters, we did find the Harry-Neville matchup was too strong to really mix in the other ones too often. And that's our number 10.
Number 9 is The Adventures of Robin Hood. And this one I knew I would like already because I love Robin Hood. My family's all from Nottingham, and I grew up with Robin Hood everything. It was all over my childhood, and so I've always really liked it. Even the not very good Robin Hood movies, I've liked all of them. And it's got Will Scarlet in it. I love Will Scarlet, and it's got one of the better stories in it. It's this weird thing with an amazingly cool book.
Yeah, the book is really cool.
Yeah, and then the game board is set up like you pop out these little bits,
like an advent calendar.
A little, yeah. So you're popping out these guys and putting them back in, and it works. It works really well, but it's got some weird mechanics to it.
Yeah, and the narrative element is strong, but the main mechanic is a shared bag builder of different only two different types of cubes that you're putting in. And so that mechanically there isn't a lot going on, but as an experience it is really fun, and I really like that we have our own emergent narrative that comes through based on which characters are doing what actions that go beyond the story, which is nice.
Yeah, even though there's kind of a set goal, how you get there can be super different. Where, yeah, Robin's doing something and maybe he's not even doing the real hero thing. And we found a lot of the times they just end up kind of doing the thing we would want them to do. It ends up kind of fitting the characters. And that movement thing is interesting. How they move. It's got like 5 pieces, and there's 2 little pieces, and then 2 medium pieces, and then 1 long piece. And when you play them, you're kind of stringing them together. But it kind of makes it so like you're going to cheat with that a lot. Because it really is a like, well, it's almost there. So it's good that it's a co-op game, because there's more of that than there is in most co-op games that we've played, of just little, well, I could just do this little, and then...
Oh yeah, I'm totally in the shade. It would definitely get me there, meaning I'm safe. We do that a bit, but because we're both doing it against the game, it's more okay.
And that one is our number 9.
Our number 8 is Charterstone, and this is interesting because a lot on our list are cooperative games. I think that makes sense for campaign style games, but this is a competitive game, and so you are each building out different buildings that you're sharing on your board as worker placement to collect resources and then trade those resources in for various things that are helping out the town as you go along. It's tricky to not say too much about the game, I think. One of the things I do like about Charterstone is the fact that it is a competitive campaign experience, and the production is really good.
The production almost feels too good. It's like there's a couple of campaign games like this that I feel bad because I'm like, oh no, I'm going to throw this away at the end. But I don't want to. And definitely the coins in this, you're going to want to keep those coins because they're amazing. But there's also the meeples are lovely. There's so much nice production to it. And it really, it's a resource management game. But it's got some cool surprises, a bit of an emergent narrative, and it's fun. I've heard like mixed things, but I really liked it.
Yeah, and I think we've heard different things for 2 players. How we really like the 2 players was each choosing 2 characters, because we both ended up with like one that seemed to be a bit of a dud. So it was nice that we weren't stuck with that one for the whole campaign. But I know other people who have used just 2 in the bots, and they've liked it fine, I think.
Yeah, I think you need at least the bots, though. I don't think you'd want to play one-on-one without anything else. But I think the 2 characters, because it's not particularly heavy, it's plenty easy to hop back and forth between this character and this character without losing your brain in it.
Yeah, definitely. It is not like any AP, so you can very easily control 2 characters, and then you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket. And that is our number 8.
Our number 7, I'm smushing 2 together here. It is Zombie Kids and Zombie Teens. And a big reason for this is just my enthusiasm has won you over. I know. And we bought this one. We bought Teens, I think we actually played first. And we got this the first time that I had COVID. And so we got this, and my brain was barely working, and I was fully COVID. This was before the boosters had started, and so I wasn't immune at all yet. So I was full COVID, and thinking very slowly. And this was great, and it would be such a great game for kids too, because it's fun. We were just talking about the production being too good. Production in this is phenomenal. It looks so great. You're adding stickers, you're adding all sorts of fun stuff as you go.
It is really fun, and I think we do have a really soft spot in our hearts because of when we played it, because we love playing games. It's what we do, and you weren't up for really any kind of game then, and what we thought, well, for a week, what can we get? And this was wonderful because it is a great campaign, and it does introduce elements, and the actions you're doing on your turn are really simple. But we did lose some games. It's not like you're always going to win and it's no point in playing. You know, it is a little bit of a challenge, but the decision making is really easy.
Yeah, it's got this cool kind of like Xbox award style, like achievement style challenges where it's got all these different challenges that you kind of put on yourself. And some of them are really hard. And then as you complete those challenges, you get to open up stuff and get different things. And it's super fast. Like it's like a 15-20 minute game.
Yeah.
But it's fun every time. And both of them are solid. They're both different enough that I think they're worthwhile.
Yeah, that is true. And I think there is the campaign element moving you through, but I think the achievements is what kept us playing beyond that to try and get all of them, which is an interesting way of keeping you in the game.
Yeah, the actual story is just this little comic book, and it's very, very simple. But it's those achievements that really bring you back and back. And for kids, if you're an adult who takes yourself real seriously, doesn't watch cartoons, I don't understand you, first of all, but also this maybe isn't for you. But if you're the sort of person who can still really enjoy a good episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Or Phineas and Ferb.
Or Phineas and Ferb, which are both tremendous,
Yeah.
or if you've got kids, I'd give this a shot. Especially, you can pick it up for like $20.
Yeah,
I would give this a shot.
Quite affordable for how much you'll play it.
Yeah, it's a light kids game, but it gets harder as you go. Trust me, and it's just fun, light nonsense. So that is our number 7.
Our number 6 is My City. And this is a polyomino style game. So you are putting out shapes, building your city. But they did a really interesting campaign. So it starts off pretty straightforward, and then new elements get added with each chapter. And I think it's 8 chapters and each one is 3. So 24 to play through, which is a decent amount of games. And if you play 2 players, then you can just do the boards you didn't use and play through it again.
Yeah, they have the exact amount of components that if you play through it once, you're going to have everything you need again. We got 2 games left in the last chapter of our second playthrough. Absolutely no problems with having enough stickers and enough everything else to play back through again. So highly recommended for that. And it's great. It's a Reiner Knizia polyomino placing game that just is technically very sound, and each one takes like 20 minutes, but I don't think there's ever been a time we played this one time. We play this 2 or 3 times every single time we play.
Yeah, it's kind of built into that because they have 3 games in one chapter, kind of like we know you're going to play 3, so here's the envelope, open it up and play through the 3. But we love polyomino, so it was a really interesting way of playing it, and I think it was fairly affordable too.
It's extraordinarily affordable, so you cannot go wrong with this. It is very... Yeah, over here you can get it for less than £20. So yeah, it's like a no-brainer.
Really looking forward to My Island.
Very much.
And that was our number 6.
Number 5 this is an interesting one because it's actually an expansion that added a campaign to a game, and that is Scythe: Rise of Fenris. We already really liked Scythe before we got this. I think me a little bit more than you, but you were really on board at first. But it's a little bit tricky to play at 2 players. It's not its best self at 2 players. But when we added the campaign, I think it made it a lot more interesting for us. And this is one we really have to avoid talking about too much because of there's a lot of cool things to spoil. But as you're going, you're adding stuff that you can add to the game later, as well as to the stuff now. The narrative is actually interesting. The stuff you get is fantastic. Opening those boxes blew my mind. And that it's an expansion to an existing game that takes a cool game and adds to it. It's just awesome. And
it's such an interesting world because the art for Scythe is beautiful. And so having the campaign that takes you narratively into that world and has really big, meaningful, impactful things that happen with each chapter is really interesting. And like you say, it's so hard to not give anything away, but we really liked it. We played through it, the two of us. Then we played through it with a couple of our friends, and then I think we went to play through it again.
Yeah, I think we've done this one. This is super rare that we've done this. But yeah, we packed the stuff back up in the boxes and did it again, even knowing everything that was going to come out of those boxes. And it was like almost as much fun the second time as it was the first time. And I'm 100% on board for playing it again. Like, you could play through this over and over, I think, and still enjoy it.
Gets permanently changed. So if that's one of the differences maybe between a legacy game,
because you're not gonna, you don't wreck up your copy of Scythe.
Yeah, exactly. So nothing's permanently changed, so it lets you play through it as many times as you want, and we are holding on to it because we will keep playing through it, I'm sure.
Yeah, and there's different paths you can take too, so there's reasons to play through it at least twice.
Yeah.
And that is our number 5.
Our number 4 is Sleeping Gods, which is a really open world sandbox kind of game. I think this is the closest that we have found for something like a video game exploration world. Mm-hmm. It is basically you have your crew and you are on your ship and you have this whole world to explore, and you can do it in whatever way you want. So you visit places, you get certain clues to visit other places, but there's nothing making you follow in those directions. You can go completely off what clues you have and keep pursuing other ones. And it does such a great job of building this world and setting the scene and having the decisions that you make in one sitting be impactful for another sitting.
Yeah, it's got this really great system of like keywords. So sometimes when you do things, you just get a card that has a keyword, and then that affects you in some way. And it's such a neat way of just having that keyword, putting that aside, and you have no idea sometimes. Sometimes they're like, oh yeah, go here. Oh, you should go over to this part. Or you should go over to this part, or check out in the north or whatever it is. But sometimes they're just like, oh, great to see you. And then you just go on about your business. And then later on, you're like, oh, yeah, that character. Oh, yeah, that thing. And that was neat. And this one took me a little bit of warming up to. Because the plays are long, it's a lot of setup.
I think that's the trick. It's not divided because it's however you want to do it. It's not divided into any kind of chapters. Mm-hmm. So you set it up and then you just play as long as you want. And then there is a bit of a save system. And then you just continue. So I think it takes maybe 15 to 20 hours to play through. And so it's up to you, whether that's, 2 plays of 10 hours mm-hmm. or lots of plays of 2 hours. And we tend to prefer playing a game from 1 to 2 hours. And that made it a bit tricky for us because it is, if we're playing a short game of it, it's a pretty big setup, only to pack it away fairly quickly and not make much of a dent yet.
The save system's really good because it's saving a lot of things, but it does it very, very smartly. But it does mean a lot of setup and a lot of takedown. And we would end up having 4 or 5 hour game sessions. And I think you're into that.
Yeah.
But after 2 hours, my attention span is waning.
And that is our number 4.
Number 3 is Clank Legacy, or Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated, I believe is the whole thing. And this one's great. And this was like our first introduction, I believe, to Clank as well. We hadn't played a Clank game, and this one came out, and we'd heard good things about Clank, so we jumped on it. We've since played, I think, pretty much every kind of Clank that one could play. This is the best way to play Clank. I would say if you haven't played Clank, you're just getting into Clank, even Clank Catacombs, which I like quite a bit, this is the one. And it's great. The story's super, super short, super tiny bits, but they're legitimately funny, which is so rare in a board game.
Yeah, and it's not just board game funny. Like we enjoyed the story elements. And normally when we play a game, you're not thrilled with having to stop the game to read the narrative, but this just nailed it because it was only ever like a couple of sentences, and so it was perfect.
And it's got this neat thing too where you're competitive, but we found we're sometimes a little bit cooperative, and I think that might be part of the 2-player experience because people were worried about this. Are you going to open everything 2-player? First of all, yeah, totally. I don't think there's anything I felt like we hadn't done. But also, you just find yourself being like, well, we want to make sure this happens, so there's like an unsteady truce, and then we just turn on that. Especially you, Jess would turn on me.
No, but it does work where you want to open everything. So I know I could win the game by racing out of the dungeon right now, but then we wouldn't get this opportunity. So I would let Sean, if he was further deeper in the dungeon, he would be able to open that thing up, and then I would give him a turn to try and make it out. So it might mean that
just playing with me, just like a cat, just playing with me and batting me around.
I think I never like lied to you. I always followed through with my agreements.
Yes, it is true.
And so it does create an interesting, slightly cooperative experience because you're so interested in making sure you experience the full campaign and everything's unlocked, and you do change the board. So it can't be like reset to play again, but it is one that you can very easily play afterwards, because then you have a great Clank game at the end.
Yeah, it's one of the only ones on this list, actually, because often an expansion game will say, oh, totally playable afterwards. It's not. It almost never is. This one honestly gives you the best version of Clank at the end. I would say I've had more fun playing this version of Clank than any of the other ones. And I think that like that tense, cooperative, competitive fits for you're both burglars, you're both sneaking in, you're both going to get killed by that dragon if you don't get out quick enough. So there is that little bit of thematic, like an unsteady cooperation before it's all going to blow up at some point.
It does suit it, yeah.
And that is our number 3.
Our number 2 is Gloomhaven / Frosthaven. And when we got Gloomhaven, we played it all of the time. And this, I think one of the reasons I really like it is I love dungeon crawlers, and for ages have been trying to get Sean into them. But so many at the time used dice rolling. And so this was more of a Euro-style dungeon crawler that you were okay with.
Yeah, it's a card-based, really smart card-based Euro. So this is a Euro game disguised as a dungeon crawler. Sometimes people use that as a criticism. That is 100% a compliment from me.
And it does campaign so well, because you really get the sense of the character building up and getting stronger, and then the retirement and being able to even play new characters, which is neat because I don't think a lot of this give you that opportunity. So it's great to have lots of characters that you can play through.
So I do not like the story here. I do not like the writing. I am not interested in the overall story at all. Like it does not connect with me. But the emergent narrative from making those characters and building them up and getting new cards and getting new powers and taking them all the way to retirement with their like little goal and then opening up a new character is so interesting to me that despite any flaws with the story and despite I can't overstate my lack of interest in the overarching narrative, I'm still so invested in it, and that's really impressive.
And I do like that aspect because I like following through that story, and so it is great that Sean is still on board. So we are both enjoying it, and it is impressive that we like it so much because there is a lot to set up. We're always looking up little rules here and there, and I think that's little things like that is what made it our number 2 probably.
And that setting up the outpost phase, some people love it and it really brings them into the narrative more, and I can totally see that. But for me, it's that little bit like in RPG video games, I'm not into crafting stuff and adding weapons and going through all the stuff I've got and changing my outfits and going back to my home village.
Straight to the mission.
So for me, it's pulling me away from that a little bit. So that's been a bit of tricky, but I don't think that's the case for you at all.
No, I do like that. And so it's just trying to find that balance of making sure we do it because I like the story and that is a key part of it, but how to do it efficiently. So Sean is still on board with playing by the time we get to the mission.
I sound like an 8-year-old. You got it. What she does is she gives me a juice box and a snack, and she just sets up an iPod with Dora the Explorer.
No, but I feel like that would work.
Yeah, just about.
And that is our number 2.
So our number 1, our top campaign games, the Connor McDavid of campaign games, is Pandemic. I had to say something to explain why I would be wearing this very bright jersey.
It's just because you're Canadian.
Yeah, it is, and Albertan. But is pandemic? This has got to be. This is the obvious choice, because not only is like the first pandemic, which I don't know. I think we're still on the fence about if that's the best one. Yeah. But that first pandemic legacy game that made legacy games be a thing. Like I know Risk Legacy was officially the first one. Mm-hmm. We still haven't played that one yet. No. But Pandemic Legacy took it to that whole other crazy level that everyone was like, oh yeah, this is a thing. It even took us a while too, because I thought, we're going to play it 12 times and throw it away? Forget it.
Yeah, we were on the fence about getting it because of that experience of it not being replayable afterwards. We didn't see the value. But it made every gameplay feel important because it was so limited. It almost got to the stage when I wanted us to lose so that we would have more plays. Yeah. But what's interesting too is you can only lose twice in a month, which is nice. It means you can't get like super stuck, where you're stuck playing it for 5 or 6 times. You know it's definitely going to be between 12 and 24 games, and that's it. And I think it's so approachable. I know a lot of people who aren't big gamers who have played through Pandemic Legacy. Because of that, it's easy to set up. You know, the first game is basically like Pandemic, and anything else gets added in enough in a way that it's comfortable. It's not big jumps.
Yeah, they just slowly kind of drip it, I think. And it's nice too because they also slowly drip the idea of like, oh man, I gotta like write on my game board. I gotta put a sticker. I gotta rip up this card. I can't do this. We still
never did that.
We never ripped up a card. All those cards we kept. And it's good because if you design it all, you can use all that stuff for prototypes. So keep it nice. No reason to rip it up. But adding the stickers to the board and everything else, once you start to do it, it's a little bit freeing. You're like breaking this board game taboo, and it's, yeah. And now we broke down that barrier, and we're sticking stickers to everything. We're sticking stickers to non-campaign.
No, we're not.
We're not.
But also the season 3 or season 0, the third one that came out, season 0, we really liked. We thought they did some really interesting, different things with it. So Pandemic Legacy, we think, it's been so strong because like season 1 and season 0 have been some of our best experiences.
And season 2 I really appreciate what they were trying to do. And it is still, like, it was still a really interesting play. It's just, if you compare it to 1, it's not as strong. But it's, I think, totally worth playing still. And it's worth for the whole thing, too, because there's surprisingly a lot of narrative through the 3, even though it's tiny little bits that they're drip feeding you. It does end up telling a kind of an interesting story between them.
That is true. So you should play it as 1, 2, then 0.
Yeah, I would say play them all. Play them in the order that
chronologically they came out.
Yeah, and they're all totally worth it. But that's our number 1. That is, I think, still we together. This was we both had this number 1 on the list, I think. So it's the unanimous choice.
And those are our top 10 campaign / legacy games. But there are a few out there that we haven't tried. Some of the ones we'd be keen to try are Mechs vs. Minions. It sounds really great. And Dice Throne Adventures we think would be a really good fit.
Yeah, I really want to play Dice Throne Adventures. And then there's other ones too that I hear great things about but just might not be a fit. King's Dilemma, which I think you need a bigger group than what we've got. Kingdom Death Monster, that you just need more money than what we've got. But I've heard good things about both of those. But there are more things coming out as well. But man, campaign games, I didn't think we'd like them. And obviously we do. We've played a lot of them.
Yeah, and we would be keen to hear what your favorites are. Were there any that we mentioned or some of the ones that we haven't tried yet? Please pop them in the comments. And as usual, please like, subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you for the next one.